Garden season is right around the corner and it is time to start our seeds indoors. I'm in between a zone 3 and a zone 4, so I am getting ready to start my onions indoors as well as my peppers. Because my growing season is a little bit shorter, I have to start them quite a ways in advance to make sure that they are ready to be transplanted by summer. So when I'm starting seeds, one of the very first things that I think about is our seed starting mix. I just use a seed starting mix from the store. I will link in the description box below to Amazon, where there's the highest rated one that I also purchase. You can go wild and make your own seed starting mix. That is absolutely okay. However, I like to keep things super simple. I believe when you are a beginner gardener, it is already so overwhelming to try and figure everything out that you should just go with a pre-made mix. Simplify your life. So the first thing we want to do with our seed starting mix is pour boiling hot water over top of it. The reason is it will kill off any of those little bug eggs that can be lurking inside. You do not want a bug or gnat infestation in your house. That would just be horrific. So we are going to pour some of this potting soil. I like to just use the top of my humidity dome here. Okay, so we're gonna do a good mix in here, and then take your boiling hot water. Be very, very careful with it, of course. And you're just going to pour it on top of your dirt. Now, obviously, this is going to be boiling, boiling hot, so you do not want to touch it with your hands. I use disposable chopsticks for so many different things, but you're just gonna mix around your soil. The soil will take a little bit to actually get wet. It doesn't matter how wet this gets because we are going to let it dry out a little bit anyways. Okay, and then we're just gonna let this cool down a little bit so it is workable without getting burned. You definitely do not want to plant your seeds in boiling hot soil. That could kill them. First, we're gonna go over how I plant onions. Now, I already have some, so I'll show you kind of the process with them. But I want to show you how I do them in one of these seed starting trays. These things actually last so well if you take proper care of them. So we're gonna just use this today. Now, one extra step you can do is you can run your soil through a sifter if you want to get these pieces out. Mine does not seem to have too many of those large chunks, so it probably will be okay. So what we're gonna do is fill up our seed starting tray. And onions grow deep roots, so we want to make sure that we're not picking a shallow container here. And just like that, we are going to plant our onion seeds. So this pack of onions has 50 seeds in there, and it says the germination rate is 92%. I did buy this year, so that should be accurate. We are going to plant these. Onions are one of those vegetables that do not mind having their roots disturbed. So we can plant them in a big block like so. So we're just gonna sprinkle the onion seeds over top. Try and make it as flat as possible. I had really, really good success with this method. So this is the only way I start my onions now. Make sure that you spread out all those seeds as best as you can, if they didn't just naturally spread out. And then sprinkle another layer on top. Onions do not require light for germination, so you can stick this in a nice warm spot in your house. I am just gonna throw them under my grow lights though. These are onions that I have planted already a couple of weeks ago, and I am going to show you how to trim them. So these are quite tall, as you can see, and what you want is for the onions to start growing their roots and starting to bulk up a little bit. So when they are about 5 to 6 inches tall, you're going to give them a haircut until they are about 3 to 4 inches tall. I'm gonna cut the tops off first because this is their first haircut and I do not want to be eating the seeds. But you can actually eat all of this stuff down here once you start trimming it and treat it just like chives. So we'll just cut the tops. Now that I've got most of those seeds trimmed, I'm going to trim them a little bit lower, and all of these will be treated like chives and thrown into whatever recipe they would be good in. All right, and then these get returned to the grow lights. For our peppers, I'm going to try these little silicone molds that I got. They're new to me this season and they look so cool. So we're gonna do an experiment to see if they work for growing peppers. I'm sure they will. I'm just curious to what point I'm going to have to pot up. So we've got this. Now what I'm gonna do is use my little chopstick to put some holes into there. First peppers that I'm going to plant are these rainbow peppers. So I am going to do 3 of these seeds per hole because these ones are a couple of years old. Okay, so 3 into this hole, 3 into this one. And pepper seeds are going to be planted a 1/2 inch deep, at least these ones are. And 3 into this one. In this middle section, we'll do 3 per cell. Now we're going to cover them up so we can keep track of which ones have seeds. What's really nice about these trays is they have 1C, 2C, 3C, so you can actually keep track of what you planted in each one using a spreadsheet, which I will show you in a little bit. And then we have these Black Magic jalapenos. I am going to plant 6 of these because I want to do cowboy candy and pickled jalapenos this year, plus salsa and hot sauce. So I actually might grow even a few more. Maybe I'll do 9 of these. Okay, and again, we're going to poke some holes about 1/2 inch deep. Good, and covering them up just gently. We don't want to go too aggressive with this. In the last section, I'm going to do some of these seeds. And finally, we're going to start our chocolate beauty bell peppers, as well as our last hot peppers. So we're going to do the same thing. Again, filling these up. I'll spare you the time. These are newer seeds. So we are only going to be planting 2 per cell because I hopefully will not have to thin them as much. I do also start seeds to give away to my friends and family because not everybody has the time or energy to start their own seeds. So I like to gift them to my family and friends. Okay, and then cover them up a little bit. Oops, I forgot to poke holes in this one. That's okay, we'll just cover it with dirt. Finally, we have our last hot peppers. Hot peppers do not always have the highest germination rates. So we will have to see how many of these actually germinate, and if they don't, we will just replant them. One of the most important things that you can do is labeling your seedlings and keeping track of how many of each you start. So today I started my bell peppers, February 13. I also started my hot peppers, my jalapenos, my other hot peppers, and my chocolate bell peppers. I planted 6 colorful bell peppers, 9 jalapenos, 3 hot peppers, 3 hot peppers, and I did 6 of the chocolate bell. And then in this corner, I'm just going to write where they're located. So the bell peppers I did in the green container, and I did cells A1, A2, B1, B2, and C1, C2. My hot peppers I did in green, and that was A3, B3, and C3. Then the jalapenos were olive orange. And my other hot peppers were yellow, A3, B3, and C3. So that is how I'm going to keep track of them. Whereas these onions that we just planted today, I will just write it onto a piece of tape. I did blush onions. just pop it on the container like so. Easy peasy. Then you don't have to spend any extra money. Let's take these over to the grow lights. So these onions are going back here where they belong. And then our new onions are tucking off to the side. Now they do not need light to germinate like I mentioned, but this is a very warm area with the window being right here and with my grow light set up. I'm gonna link in the description box below these grow lights, this setup, because this had worked so incredibly well for me. I love it. And then these seedlings are going to tuck under here. Now, the nice thing about these grow lights is that you can lower them as much as you want. It is very important that you lower your lights to the level of your seedlings. If you keep them too far above your plant, you're going to end up with some leggy seedlings, which just means they're very tall and skinny and not very strong. So as these seedlings begin to sprout, I'm going to add another light and make sure that they're nice and close, just like the onions that I showed you before. Well, there you have it. That is how I am starting my seeds indoors this year. I will be back to show you how I plant my tomatoes, and I will also be back to show you how I thin out my peppers once they start growing. One more thing of note for peppers is they do like heat and warmth, so you could put a heating mat underneath your peppers. I do not do that, even though it takes longer for the seeds to germinate, specifically because I think minimal is better when you are first starting out. But if you're noticing that your seeds are not germinating as quickly as you'd like, you can try a heat mat and see if that makes a difference. You can also put your humidity dome on top of your seedlings, and that would also make a difference in your germination rates. A lot of gardening is figuring out what works for you by playing around with different options. It's so annoying to hear because you just want a concrete answer. But try my method, try somebody else's method, and then try your own and do experiments. Figure out what works for you. Also, please note that if you do not have the energy or time or capacity to start your own seeds, that there is nothing wrong with buying them from the store. Especially if you only need 1 or 2 plants, it sometimes doesn't make sense. If you would like a copy of my garden planner, click in the description box below and I will send you to the blog post where this is an option for a free printable. Please let me know in the comments down below what plants you are planning on growing in your garden. I love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you more than you know. Take care.